All right, I teased it. The one and only Steve Wyche is here. He was on the line. He saw some of the list, but let's bring my list back. My top 10 NFL players for the 22 season and beyond. And beyond, because Steve, good to see you, brother. I'm trying to think of, it's like what you tell your kids. I'm trying to think of your future. I'm thinking of your future. I'm trying to be a little futuristic and visionary here.
But I like your rationale. So your rationale is the first thing, the NFL Network list, the top 100, is always a ball of confusion because we ask the players to vote on it, and they tend to reflect on what a guy did in the previous year as opposed to projecting the 2020. So it always leads to this ball of confusion, and I'm kind of over it. Like A.J. Terrell, the Falcons corner, second-team All-Pro, wasn't on the top 100 this year. It's a joke in terms of that.
Yeah.
But your list is fantastic. Okay, so here's what I'd probably look at your list, and I would probably have to add, using your rationale, Lamar Jackson onto your list. You take him off the Ravens, I mean, what? They're 1 yard in a cloud of dust. Right.
Hey,
so
Huntley, you're not a Huntley fan? I like him. I like what I've seen from that.
Okay.
Kid.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead and win the division. I like him, but Lamar's a little different now.
You don't like him that much.
No, this is using your rationale. Like if you took a player off of a team, and it could be 10 quarterbacks, if you wanted to go ahead and do that. But I love the fact that Aaron Donald remains at number 2. Because he's a dude, if you took him off the Rams defense, you could say, well, we could survive a couple games. No. Teams game plan specifically for 99 and the hell he rats on their offenses. So I absolutely love that. Mahomes again, let's go non-quarterback. But I also like the fact that, running back, you say, well, what would the Titans be without Derrick Henry? Well, they finish up as the number 1 seed a lot of games without Derrick Henry. Okay,
exactly?
What would the Colts be without Jonathan Taylor? Well, that's a great question. But last I checked, they weren't a playoff team, so they can't, be added to the mix. So again, I look at this list, and I'm trying to think of another maybe defensive player. Like, do the Raiders make the playoffs without Max Crosby last year?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. 4 straight down the stretch. But
right,
how about one of the guys who's in your town? How about Justin Herbert?
Well, the Chargers were a playoff team. I mean, they took the game off at the end of the season, so the dude's a great player. He's one of the 7 or 8 best players in the NFL. But so if we're projecting, again, if we can go 10 quarterbacks and we could just stick our hand in a raffle hat, pull out 10 quarterbacks, team's going to fall apart. You take him off the Chargers, they're not a very good football team. But
and you know what,
he's special.
And I don't necessarily think it's 10 quarter. I know we think it is. We think that every team's quarterback, like every playoff team, if you take away their quarterback, the whole organization falls apart. I don't believe that. I think the elite guys clearly. But there are some teams that would be all right. They'd be all right. Especially if you're like the 12th or 13th or 14th team in the playoffs. All right. Yeah, you lose your quarterback.
I don't know about that, man. Take Derek Carr off the Raiders. Okay, take Derek Carr off the Raiders. Where they got? But I mean,
where they been? Probably. Ooh,
they made the playoffs last year.
That's our guy.
They were a playoff team last year.
Yeah, they did. They did. They backed it.
Well, hey, so here's one. No, here's one for you. We're about to find out what the Niners are going to be without Jimmy Garoppolo. They were a playoff team, and they were in the conference championship last year. Now they're making a decision to go with Trey Lance. And I compared this on air today on NFL Network to a situation they were in, let's say about 10 years ago, when Jim Harbaugh took a very capable and very good starter in Alex Smith, who got hurt, opened the door for Colin Kaepernick to come in. Cap had just one start the year prior. Okay, Trey Lance had 2. Cap had one start the year. In his second year, midway through the season, after an injury, he said, we're rolling with Cap. And when Alex Smith came back, like how now Jimmy Garoppolo just signed that deal to return to the 49ers, what did Jim Harbaugh do? He stuck with Kaepernick and allowed him to play through his mistakes. That's what Kyle Shanahan's got to do with Trey Lance, because there are going to be some tough times. And like Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo is a wonderful human being. He is loved in that building. He cannot yield to the temptation to go to Jimmy if he is going to make a move like this.
I like your reference to Kaepernick. I'll just let you know, just as an aside, I saw an excerpt of the Kaepernick documentary, Spike Lee's excellent Kaepernick documentary on Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. And when Steve Wyche came on and said, I'm Steve Wyche representing the real HU, the room was like, oh, okay. Because there were a lot of Howard people in there. There were a lot of Hampton people in there too. So it was a buzz for like 2 or 3 minutes. But anyway, great job in that documentary, brother. I can't wait.
Thank you. I haven't seen that clip yet. I'm not like you. I'm not going to Martha's Vineyard and the all-white party where you're sipping tea and having blueberry crumpets.
It's not like that.
Oh, okay.
No. It's not that kind of place. Like people think that. It's not.
Oh, come on.
You got to come down. It's not that. It really isn't. Trust me. You got to come down. Anyway, okay. I do want to ask you about San Francisco and the Niners. It's just your surprise level. Because this was like the big, I couldn't believe this turnaround. I called it the Incredibles. Like, what? Because I had mentioned it before on the show, and I think to Mike and to Charles, I think it was Charles Robinson or Jim Trotter. I said, hey, what if they just bring back, Garoppolo? And like, that ain't going to happen. What is your surprise level?
So here's a surprise level. But it comes with a caveat. If you would have just said they're going to bring him back, sorry, the lights just went out in this motion sensor room, so there we go. If you were to bring him back at that $24 million contract he was on, no way. He restructured his deal, which is a very tradable deal now, right? But he's got a no-trade clause. So he restructures a deal and say some team like Seattle came calling, he could say, I don't want to go play for Seattle because I don't know if they're going to be very good, or I don't want to go play for a certain team because I don't think they're going to be very good. But if he has an opportunity to go someplace, let's say they've got a situation in Tampa Bay where their quarterback gets hurt or maybe just retires in the middle of the season. Okay, I'll go down there and play. Okay, so maybe that's a situation where that happens. But otherwise, honestly, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers, you honestly hope you don't play a snap this year, because his free market value next year will be greater. Look, a guy like Mitch Trubisky, who had a decent career in Chicago, sits all year in Buffalo, and he's one of the first quarterbacks off the market in free agency this year. It's just like the coach who gets fired or unretires, goes and stays away from a year. He's the hot dude the year after that. So maybe that's what happens to Jimmy G if he doesn't play a snap this year. The only difference between a player and a coach is coaches, you can coach to your late in your career. As a player, you have a very finite length of career.
We've talked so much about off the field stories, and there are plenty of those still. They always happen. But before we get to those, I just wondered, it's cut down day today. We're on the doorstep of September. The games are going to happen fairly soon. We just step back. Steve Wyche steps back and looks at the entire league. Like, who do you look at and say, they're going to be a problem? That team is great. That is a great football team. Who's that? Or maybe it's 2 or 3 teams, but who do you look at?
Wow. Well, it always ends up being someone you don't think it's going to be, right? So you look at the Bills. I mean, I look at them like, where's the hole? Where's the flaw? Right? When people say, Tampa's going to be great, they could be, but they have all these issues with their offensive line. Is Tom Brady good? I think, a lot of people are like, hey, he didn't look great at that press conference. He seems like, maybe he's got too much stuff going on to stay focused. I think once the games go on, Tom Brady's going to be fine. But that offensive line, there's a concern. The Rams, you're like, they're loaded. Where's the weakness? Well, maybe Matthew Stafford's elbow, but if he can manage it, they're loaded. So when I look at teams right now, and I'm like, man, the Indianapolis Colts to me are a potentially scary team. And I'm going to talk about a team I don't think we talked about enough, the Cincinnati Bengals. Where have they gotten worse? Where have they gotten worse? Now, they're going to play a tougher schedule. I've covered this league long enough to know when a team goes from like worst to first or comes out of nowhere and they get 5 primetime games, a lot of these guys can't handle that change. When you're used to playing these 1 o'clock games every week and you're on a schedule, and then you got to sit around all day and play in front of the lights, some guys can't adjust. But as you know, I've said on the show before, I am the president of the Joey Burrow fan club. This guy is a player. He relates to the guys in his locker room. I think he's going to be one of the great ones when everything is said and done. And I think everything he's able to translate to that team, to me, there's no reason why they can't be back where they were last season.
All right, when you look at – all right, so if you look at Burrow and Cincinnati, and they won a division last year. I mean, they put it on the Ravens a couple of times. I mean, they really put it on the Ravens. They put it on the Steelers. We weren't used to that. Do you think they can do that? You think they're so good that they now, like Buffalo, you mentioned Buffalo. Yep. Buffalo is a cut above everybody else in the AFC East. Do you apply that same thing to Cincinnati where you now put them a cut above everybody in the AFC North?
That's a great question. That is a great question because for me to look at the gap, right, between, let's say, the Bills and my number 2 team in that division is going to be the Dolphins. To me, that's a pretty sizable gap. I don't know if the Bengals have that much of a gap over the Ravens, over the Steelers. The Browns, their quarterback situation, I'd have to give them the Bengals a bigger gap. But I don't know if I could say the Bengals gap over the Ravens is as sizable as I think it is the Bills with the Dolphins. And I think all 4 of those teams are going to be playoff teams, possibly because the AFC West, we might get 3 teams coming out of there to be playoff teams. But I just think the Bengals, the way they're constructed, man, I think they can rock with anybody. I'm not talking a week 6 matchup. I'm talking a week 17 playoff matchup.
And I wasn't on board last year. Michael Smith told me he went down there. He said, man, I talked to a security guy in Cincinnati. And the security guy was like, your boy on board yet? has he accepted that we're good? I'm like, okay, yes, I do accept it. I finally figured out that Cincinnati is good. The old days no longer matter. But I do want to ask you this, and this is an old days comment because I'm just racking my brain. I can't remember. Maybe it's something obvious, and I need you to help me, a football mind like yours, to help me out. Can you think of any situation like Bill Belichick is trying to pull now in New England where you don't just name an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator for like nobody really knows. Like sometimes you know who the offensive coordinator is, but they don't have the title. That's not what's happening here. Hey, we don't have to look. We do not have to look far back at all. What did Brian Flores do last year? Give me an example. Dolphins? Brian Flores, a protege of Bill Belichick, did the same thing last year with the Miami Dolphins. Remember, they had 2 offensive coordinators. He wouldn't, and he brought in another offensive coach. Right? And he wouldn't tell us who was going to call the plays. The first 8 games, their offense was a disaster because whoever was running the plays, calling the play, it was not working. They changed play callers, and things worked out fine. And Miami made that great late season run. So this is, I won't say it is eerily similar, but yeah, we've got that example to draw from. What New England is doing, you can always say like, hey, a defensive guy knows how defenses think, so this is what I would do in that situation. But a lot of times things are so fluid during a game. How do you adjust to that? How do you get your quarterback to feel comfortable? They say that they're renumerating their offensive system. Okay. Do you tell your receiver, okay, I want you to make an out cut at 14 yards, or do I want you to make an out cut at 6 steps? There are certain guys who compute things differently. Yes. And if you're drilled it one way and they're understanding it another way, there could be some communications issues there. Now, when it comes to the Patriots, we've seen them struggle sometimes offensively 4 or 5 games into the season. And you heard Bill Belichick come out the other day saying, hey, if we're still
lights issue again, motion sensor issue again. But Belichick say, hey, if we're into this thing, if it looks bad 5 games into the season, then we have an issue. But right now, he does not seem to be stressing over it. So we'll see. But I don't think the Patriots have the type of grace period where they can be uncertain about their offense 5 weeks into the season, with Buffalo potentially running away, Miami making moves in that division too.
Exactly. Their first 4 games, they got 2 on the road. The 3 of their first 4 games on the road. They got Miami and Pittsburgh on the road, Green Bay, and in between the Ravens at home. I mean, you can see that. You're just trying to, if you look at that, if you're a really good team, you say, we come out of that 2-2, we're pretty good. If you're a team that doesn't really have any certainty, any clarity, you could be staring down the barrel of 1-3, or dare I say it, 0-4. Steve Wyche, man, always good to see you representing the real HU.
The only, not the real, the only.
The only HU. The one and only Steve Wyche. Always good to talk to you, brother. Take care. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.